Hello and welcome to Weekly MTG. I'm your host, Blake Rasmussen, and today we're doing the thing we get asked for each and every week. We are doing an arena stream. We are going to talk about the economy at some point in time. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. The arena team has been doing some fantastic stuff lately, so we're going to talk about some upgrades the team has implemented recently. We're going to talk about some future upgrades, some cool things coming. We're going to talk about the release of Tarkir Dragonstorm, which happened today, right now. You could be playing off to the side while you're watching this if you're feeling up to it. And we're going to answer some of your questions. We'll come back to a Q&A. And to do all that, two friends of the show, Ian Adams and Chris Kiritz, are here. If they don't know who you are, what do you do for Arena?
So I'm the executive producer for Arena. So I kind of help Ian and the card set team and all the features team do all of their work.
Yep.
Make sure that they're unblocked.
And I'm Ian Adams. I'm the product owner of Card Set on Arena. That's the part where you play Magic.
Yeah. So between the two of them, they know everything about Arena. So we will get to questions in a bit. Before we do that, I do have one bit of news. So MagicCon Atlanta is coming up this June, and the New Perspectives Grant, which we have been doing for quite some time, is open now for MagicCon Atlanta, and it is accepting submissions until 8 a.m. on April 17th. So if you're planning to apply for a New Perspectives Grant, you have until April 17th at 8 a.m. What is the New Perspectives Grant? If you're not aware, it's a program that aims to support the inclusion of Magic enthusiasts who belong to historically underrepresented groups by providing assistance to attend MagicCon events. You can learn more and apply today at magic.gg/new-perspectives-grant-program. Probably just Google New Perspectives Grant Program, and you'll find that rather than trying to decipher what I just said out loud. And then, of course, since MagicCon Atlanta is coming in June, we are going to have much more news on that event coming soon. It's going to be a big one. We've been working on a lot of the announcements for that show already. You will definitely want to head to MagicCon Atlanta if you are able. All right, but in the interim, you can play Tarkir Dragonstorm on Arena today. What's new with this release?
With Tarkir, card set wise, I mean it's this set. It's a bunch of new dragons and 3-color cards and the new Omen cards, all that kind of stuff. It's a really fun limited environment. If you are greedy with your colors, you are well supported in this set. Lots of dual lands. We're also doing the factionalized sealed.
Okay.
So if you really want to try out the Mardu mechanics, you really want to play with Mobilize, you can go in and say, give me Mardu cards.
Yeah.
And you'll get a couple of your packs will be seeded to favor that color combo much more heavily.
Have y'all done that on Arena before?
We have not. This is our first time doing factionalized sealed.
Okay. Very cool.
It's been pretty fun. It's pretty cool to be able to sit down and go, what is the teamer deck like? If you haven't been able to draft it, you can now just say, I want to give that a shot.
Yeah.
So that's been pretty cool.
Yeah, and we're leaning in a little bit with that on the digital. It's slightly different than what you might have played at pre-release. So a little bit more faction heavy, a little bit more cards that support the themes are in that version. And that's just our sealed offering, and you can play it in different ways. You'll be battling against all the other clans. It's a really fun experience for us.
Very cool. Yeah.
The other big thing with Tarkir Dragonstorm, this release, is that Arena released in a very different way. We actually released the core of the card set last week. I talk about it. I have a State of the Game article that should be up today if it's not up already. I talk about it a little there. In that, I promised, hey, if you hop on today, you won't have a download. That's actually not true. Today we'll have a small download, but the reason this is cool is because it's a bunch of fixes that we were able to get in over the course of the week, and the download is significantly smaller. So even though there is a download, it's not the full card set, it's just the fixes you need, so your time to get into the game is much lower.
Yep.
Okay. So beside, no download or smaller download on release day is certainly great. Are there any other differences that players will know with this different sort of release method?
I think the big one that I can think of is that when we do it early, cards that have like Momir style effects are able to get the new cards early.
Okay.
Which is something when we first talked about this, the card set team was really quick to say, hey, anything that says random creature is going to see those creatures. And we made the call that sounded like fun, that giving people a week where maybe, 1 in 10,000 chance you'll pull one of these Tarkir cards early.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any? Can you deck build beforehand, or
So you can look at if you filter to uncollected, and then go to that set, you can see everything. You can, I believe, import decks that you create in other places, and we're working on a fix to let you actually build inside of the client with cards you don't have yet. So again,
Okay.
once the release hits, you open your packs or craft your cards, and you're ready to go right out of the gate. So we were hoping that would work this release, and it didn't. So it's
Gotcha.
on our roadmap to fix for a future release where we do this.
okay? So this is going to be the new cadence and technique going forward.
Yep, 4 card set releases.
Okay.
Yeah. And then because of this, there's going to be other stuff over time that we get to do that we're not ready to talk about yet, but it will expand some of the things that we're able to do with like the streamer program and some of those preview content.
Gotcha.
Things.
Okay. Very.
I will also just catch early before we get asked. Commander face cards. There's an announcement. There's stuff. There are plans. You'll get
for Dragons
for
from Tarkir?
Dragons of Tarkir. Yes.
Okay. Command phase cards. All right.
The 10 are coming.
Yes.
Okay.
The 10 are coming. It's somebody else's job to tell you how you get them.
And just the face cards, not
Yes.
other content.
Just
from
the
campaign.
10 faces. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Cool. What's the reason for bringing those in with this release?
We've been doing it more and more when we can
Yeah.
on releases lately. Brawl is a big hit on Arena, and we get a ton of play in that arena. Sometimes they make for a fun historic or timeless card. And it's just been, it was something we did when we had a little extra time on a set, and it got a really strong response. So now we try to prioritize it whenever we can.
Okay.
And with 4-player in the future, it's, just pays off down the line.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but and Ian, correct me if I'm wrong, Tarkir was a little bit easier than some of the sets we've had in recent history.
Yes.
So
Yes.
compared to many of the sets from last year.
Yep.
Yeah.
We talked about this in the State of the Game video from last year, where Duskmourn had a lot of challenges. Obviously, Modern Horizons 3 had a lot of challenges with its however many 60 whatever mechanics.
Yep.
Yes. 74.
He knows exactly.
He does.
Do.
With the addition of Pioneer Masters and with the addition
Yep.
of all of everything that came with Foundations. So
Yeah.
this was more of a like, oh, this
You
is
guys
a
have done
redo.
this before, you know what you're doing. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so we get to when that happens, we get to do some extra stuff, and in this case, it was the face cards.
Speaking of extra stuff, I actually want to go back one release. We haven't talked in a bit, but we do now have, and it's a pleasant surprise every time it pops up for me, achievements launched with Ether Drift. So tell us a bit more about those.
Yeah, so I think last video we were talking about, it's coming. We're super excited. We launched it. Player reception has been great. The goal here is to provide places or things for players to do that aren't just specifically winning games. Let's explore what is possible. Let's highlight some of the really fun things about Magic. Give some structure and some exposure to players who may not know that these things exist. And even if you don't see them initially, eventually you will complete one of them and it'll pop up.
Yep.
And you'll see, oh, here's a funny achievement. I was just playing randomly and got the win on one with 1 life achievement in a draft. And I'm like, oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's,
One of my favorites I got was playing mono green elves, and I got an achievement for casting something with mana value, I think 8 or greater, with only 2 lands. And I was like, you're right, that is a green thing to do. 100%.
Yeah. And so, Ian is one of the design managers. There's another one for the features and the work that we do on that side. And that team did a really good job of really diving into Magic and coming up with achievements that are fun and resonant based on the 30 plus years of history of Magic. And they make a lot of sense. people love it so far. We love it. We want to expand it. So we're looking at ways that we can expand it over time. There's a lot of very cool, interesting things we can do in the space. No promises yet, but it is definitely on our radar of what's the next thing that we do with achievements. And we have the team working on some ideas. Some of them might be more expected than others, and we're kind of pushing on the barriers and seeing what we can do. What's really fun, what really rewards player engagement in areas that they may not typically get that reward. Like, we already have a bunch of systems for winning. Right. So this is really around playing
and expressing
exploring.
yourself. Now, my only qualm with it, I'm a blue player through and through. Somehow that's my lowest color mastery achievement. I only have like 6 of them. I have like 9 black out of the 10. It's very confusing. I don't know what to do with it.
I think the fun thing is that while some of the achievements are naturally slotted into a color, like, you can achieve them accidentally in different colors.
Yeah.
Right. So.
All right. Well, let's move along. There have also been some changes to how, or I guess haven't been. Soon there will be some changes coming to how you all handle reprints.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us a bit about those changes.
Do you want to take this one? Or?
Sure. The very high level thing is that the relationship between styles and printings is changing.
Okay.
We are decisions about architecture were made like 7 years ago when varying styles of Magic cards were not nearly as much a part of the experience of a new set as they are now.
Yeah.
And it turns out re-architecting fundamental decisions that different people made 8 years ago is hard.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to not break the things people have done in the years in between. Right. So finding a way to make it much easier to take a new style and apply it to a copy of a card you already have, or get a new piece of art from a new set and use that art with the copies that you already own of a card has been the goal of these changes. It's trying to make it a lot more streamlined and simple, and people should not have to know which version of Land of War Elves this special showcase style is associated with, and that's what we're working on getting to.
Yep.
So how does it work now, and then how will it work once you're all done?
So right now, styles are associated with art IDs rather than like card titles.
Okay.
So you might have a style that works with a given printing of Land of War Elves, and then if we print that Land of War Elves again with the same art in a different set, the same style will work with that Land of War Elves. And then later, if we do a new printing of Land of War Elves with different base art, the style won't apply to that one,
Okay.
and a new style might apply to that one, which won't apply to the old art. And again, this was not anybody's plan when people started architecting this years and years ago. And obviously, it's not the experience we want. We want you to be able to go, hey, I just bought this, anime Land of War Elves style. I've got 4 Land of War Elves. I should be able to just go put it on there and use it.
Yep.
And that's where we want to let people be.
Okay.
Yep. And there's more details in the article on exactly what that looks like. But yeah, the goal is to make it more intuitive and make it so that when you have a style or when you have a card printing, that works across the board. And so for both styles, you have a style, it'll apply to anything. Also, printings, you already have a bunch of 4 Land of War Elves and a new printing comes out. You want to make it easier to just use you just need that one card, and then that effectively will perform like a style, even though it's a printing of a card.
Okay.
So those are the 2 main changes, and we'll provide all of the details when we launch the feature. But
Cool.
That's the high level.
All right. Okay. And then another improvement or addition that I know you all are working on are some more social connective tissue.
Yeah. So this is the big feature for this year. Achievements was last year's big feature. Social improvements are the big one for 2025. Magic is an inherently social game.
It's right there in the name.
It is.
Yep.
It is. And we want to embrace that gathering mentality and apply it to everywhere where players might be playing over time. Right now we have a basic friends system in the game, and that's fine, but it doesn't really necessarily let you take that and apply it anywhere else. So we want to both give you better grouping tools. You and your friends can have a group. Maybe that gives you access to certain features or abilities that are new that really support the type of play that you want to have. So it's easier for somebody who doesn't want to play against counter spells for some reason, Blake, to find like-minded individuals and play with them in a setting where that is just a social norm, almost a rule zero.
Sure.
Like giving people an ability to rule zero in the digital space, which currently we don't do.
Yeah.
And that'll be a social, in order to facilitate that, we need a social group that supports that.
Okay.
This isn't, some people might hear that and think clans. One of the pillars that we're using here is that group of people who you want to play Brawl with no counterspells might be different than your local game store. It might be different from your Pro Tour testing group. So we do want to allow you to be in multiple groups at one time. So this is not going to be a singular system, but a kind of a, hey, go do the thing that you want to do with the people you want to do it at that time. That player choice and agency is really important in this system. And then the longer term, probably when we look at like when will we deliver things like this, it's end of the year or early next year. It's a big long haul. We might get pieces of it early, but the fully fledged features are going to take some time. But we want to do things like allow you to have a group for your local game store, so you can play online and then go meet up in your game store. Support the local community as well. So those are all parts of what we want to get out of this social overhaul. So it's not just like making chat better. It's not just having a better presence. It's really about building communities, not just digitally, but also engaging your tabletop friends and providing opportunities wherever you play Magic, however you play Magic.
Cool.
So,
I do see some folks in chat putting some good questions in and even tagging @Magic like I have asked you all to do, and you do it so wonderfully, and it's great. But we are going to wait to do questions until the end, so please hold on to those questions. I've seen some good ones, and I don't want them to get lost, so copy, paste, stick it in a notepad, and then we'll come back to them in a little bit, because next we're going to get to the thing that we always get asked to do, which is the Arena economy stream. And so we're gonna talk economy. We're gonna start big picture. And then kind of funnel our way down to specifics. So let's start with kind of a refresher on how you all think about the economy as a whole.
Sure. So, when I was here, 3 years ago now, or 3 or 4 year anniversary of the economy stream.
The original, yeah.
Yeah, the original.
Yeah.
That one was really
Something
fun.
like that. I don't know. Time's a construct.
Do I have a Chandra behind me? No. All right. So when we look at the economy, the basic economy, what is economy? It's how people interact with collecting and playing the game. Right? That's a pretty broad statement. But how you collect cards and where you're spending your time is all part of that economy. We have a handful of pillars that we have, and the article that I have goes a little bit more in depth. But generally speaking, free players should have access to everything if they spend time, right? So we don't gate typically core features behind spend. You can do almost everything. How you get there may be longer or a different path, but you have access to pretty much everything people who spend do over time. So that's a key point. We want to, the system is built on, early on building a couple of decks and then maintaining them over time, or building new resources over time to get your next deck. It's not built to have everything all at once, to build full set collections, to have every meta deck immediately. With enough play over time, you can build those resources, and every time you have one of those decks or build the next one gets a little bit easier. You have more pieces to grow from, depending on how you want to approach that. We are aware that if you want to go from, here's my mono blue deck that's really hot in the meta right now, and I want to shift to like a green black deck, that's going to be a bigger leap. That's going to take more time and resources to get there. that's known, but that's part of the system. But you can get there by evolving slowly over time where, oh, I'm playing blue, maybe I do blue-black, now I've built up components of that deck and can move on. So, but it is really built, the core system is built around, maintaining decks over time, or if your jam is the other way, doing limited and being able to kind of balance. If you win enough, you can buy in and, replay, but sometimes you might need to, all right, go do a different thing to earn those resources to get your system back in, right? That's how the free-to-play system works. We really wanted to focus on collections and building collections and not destroying collections. We've heard a lot of requests for, a version of destroying cards to get other cards. And that was a choice that we made very early on to not do. Instead, we do things like the wildcard progress bar and the random wildcards and packs. But the progress bar and the way that works is really taking what would have been the dust from the packs that you would have had and just putting them in that progress meter over time so you don't have to destroy anything, because we really didn't want you to do that.
Yeah.
I know that's contentious, but that's really a core focus of what we want to do, because when something cool comes out and you have more options and more cards, we want you to experiment and have fun. Being able to, when Tarkir comes out, if something really awesome pops with dragons and you have some older dragons in your collection, you might have cool ideas and be able to do stuff rather than, I need to go get the resources to craft those again.
Yeah.
So that's a key portion. And then one of the other ones is healthy play. People wonder why we have, only 15 daily wins or 15 weekly wins. And some of that is to really support play that we believe is healthy and doesn't over-index on spending all your time. Now, there's some players who are that's a drawback for them. They want to spend their time doing that. We're aware of that. Hopefully, with events or other systems, you have tools to do that if that's your play style that reward you for that play. But we really wanted to make sure that somebody who only could play a handful of games every 2 or 3 days isn't at a severe disadvantage, which is why we front load some of those prizes early in the track. But we still have things to shoot for, even if they may not be the bulk of the rewards.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our core set of philosophies around the economy itself. I think since our last conversation, we've done a lot to try and reinforce that and take care of some of the pain points that have existed.
Okay.
When we talked last time, there was a really wild discrepancy between limited players building collections and constructed players building collections.
Okay.
One of the early swings, and I think we announced it on that stream, was the Mythic packs.
Yep.
Since then, we've added Golden packs, which I think are one of the biggest wins in that system, because now just buying and opening packs with the currency you earn gives you packs that give you more rares and builds collections faster. It's on parity with what you would get out of limited, which was really good. We've added deck sales, which again respect your collection and allow you to try some new things based on your collection. If you don't have any of the cards, they're going to be more expensive, maybe not worth it. But if you have a bunch of them, it's a way to polish off a deck and get access to things that didn't exist before.
And that's a relatively new addition. How, in your view, has that been going so far?
It's going well. I think when we launched it, there were a couple quirks in the system that we didn't do a great job of explaining and how we present it. We're working on presentation. Right now, the feature team has a design that says when you look at the deck, you can see exactly what the breakout is and what you're missing. Right now, it's kind of a crapshoot on this deck costs 300 gems. I don't know what this looks like. Or what cards I'm missing out of this. I would have to go do some sort of finagling to figure it out.
Yeah.
The other thing that's going to change is right now, because of the versions problem, if we put a printing of a card in that deck and you have a different printing, it doesn't recognize that.
Okay.
The system that we're launching here soon will help rectify that.
Okay.
So it won't matter what version you have in your collection. You will get the correct discounted price for whatever version is in the store. So that's a big change. So we're really working to provide tools and address the system, the flaws in the systems as they come up. And we do it iteratively because sometimes providing the value now is in a slightly imperfect way is better than waiting until it's perfect. We don't want to. We try to not wait until things are perfect and just till they're good enough so we can start iterating and building on them.
Okay.
So.
Now, what about, so you started dipping into it there and on things that are coming up. Are there
Yeah.
any additional changes to the economy that you all are looking at rolling out anytime soon?
I think we're in a pretty good spot. We don't have any major changes coming.
Yeah.
There's been some, social chatter around the changes to standard recently, both going to 3 years and going to, having more sets with the Universes Beyond being legal in all formats, right? We think that because of the baseline system, which is building decks over time and iterating decks over time, we think that the bigger standard kind of offsets the more releases, because each of those releases, will generally enhance decks that you already have. Sometimes there will be a new one you want to collect, right? A speed deck might be out of Ether Drift, something new that you really want to focus on, or something in Tarkir where you really want to focus on omens or something. There might be a new deck in that that comes out of it. But generally speaking, a lot of the primary archetypes get support over time, so you may need, as a philosophy of building and managing your decks over time, nothing is really changing there. If you're a completionist, it obviously changes. There's more cards in standard. There's more sets coming out.
Yeah.
That is available for people who want to do it, but it's not necessarily going to be something everybody can do without spending money.
Okay.
Right? It's not built to do that.
Now, what about, we haven't really talked much about events, and events are a pretty important part of the economy and how people can build up collections, or in case of Arena Directs, get physical products.
Yep.
So how are you all feeling about your current slate of events?
So generally speaking, good. I think Limited has been pretty healthy. Once we got the traditional draft in, then the player draft in, I think we're in a pretty good spot. Constructed is a little bit harder. We have the ladder, which does a lot of work for folks, and so they're happy there. We've iterated once on constructed events. I think there's another world, it's not anytime soon, but another world where we take another swing at constructed events to get them more in line and separate them more from ladder play and what competitive players are looking for in a kind of a queued system.
Okay.
Right? I don't think they're filling that need perfectly yet. And then we have the high level play, the championships and the plays and stuff that can be constructed that really fulfill that high level play. So we have a gap in the middle that I think we want to address over time. Arena Directs have been, we talked about this in the November State of the Game, really successful and way more work than anybody ever expected.
Yeah.
It is the gift that keeps on giving as far as work goes, because every 6 weeks or so, we find something new that we have to address or account for.
Like an entire additional human being has joined the team amount of work.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And we still have to iterate on those. The fact of the matter is that running an indirect with the physical prize structure has a bunch of new challenges. We learned about one a couple of weeks ago that we need to account for. And so we're working on a plan to address some of those concerns, both from a player perspective. When we launched, it wasn't as good of a player experience as we would have liked. We've done a lot of work in that space. We'll talk about that, and I think in a couple of weeks we'll have an Arena Direct specific article coming out.
Okay.
The cost to manage the program were not what we expected. They were higher than we expected, so we're going to have to do some changes there.
Okay.
But from a play perspective, from an engagement perspective, it really is doing everything we had hoped it would do. The ability to play digital Magic and earn tabletop Magic is amazing. It's unlike anything out there.
Yeah.
We just need to get it in the right spot so it's sustainable.
Okay. All right. Anything else in economy that we have not covered before we get to Q&A?
Let me check my notes. No, I think there's, I will say one thing about economy, because it's come up a few times, which is we know that it's been a while since we've done an anthologies. So we're aware.
Yep.
It's where in the schedule. I would be surprised if we didn't have one this year.
Yep.
I don't know what format we'll target yet, but I would be surprised if it didn't happen. We think that there are going to be some good opportunities in the back half of the year for sure to where that they might fit and they might be a good match for some of the formats we're trying to support, whether it's Timeless or Brawler or something else historic.
I will, related to what you're saying, People like to point out that there are cards on Arena that are in Momir or Spellbooks that are not currently available in collections.
Yep.
I'm aware of that.
Sometimes that's on purpose.
Yes.
Some of them are meant to be kept there, but some of them,
Yeah.
maybe there's something that we can do about that.
Yeah. But when we talk about anthology candidates,
Yep.
there might be some cards in those spaces that are very interesting.
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
right
100%.
there. The other, so I believe the article that you referenced that's going up today is up, and one of the before we get to we are about to get to Q&A. If you have questions, tag @Magic. That'll help me find it a little bit easier. Stick them in chat, and then we'll start running through those in a moment. The one topic that we really haven't talked about is sort of mix of formats, and there's an interesting section in the article that talks about kind of how the format mix and popularity has shifted since the introduction of Timeless. How all are you looking at the mix of formats?
You're on the card. If you want to take, I mean, I can tackle it from a philosophical standpoint, which is each time we introduce a format, we do it for a specific player group or player need. We want our formats to all be healthy and diverse, but also really target a specific player or play type. Okay, so Historic is one that is a kind of a curated experience that allows you to use a lot of what's on Arena, but we knew that there were cards that were just so powerful we didn't want them disrupting that format and that play balance.
Yep.
Particularly with Modern Horizons 3 coming out, so we created Timeless.
Yeah.
Right, which gets to have all of the fun broken stuff.
Yeah.
And is, less curated by a lot.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody needs to prove something is broken before we're going to take action. Otherwise, it's just the most powerful format you can play on Arena.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing is, over time, Brawl has become more popular. And that started actually in 23 and has just continued to slowly eke its way up. So now, when we look at the formats that are in the article, we have Standard, which has always been our number one. And then Historic was generally the number 2, and then you had a bunch of stuff vying for the remainder. Brawl has crept up, and now Brawl and Historic are effectively tied, depending on when you look at it. Which means that when we look at where we might put some focus on cards, why the face cards are coming.
Yep.
We're trying to fit those in for Tarkir, why those choices happen.
Okay.
So, from a design perspective and how you manage it, that's more on your side
Yeah,
of the fence.
it's very much what we talked about before. Is when we've got room to stretch, we're looking at the formats that are seeing the most play. We are not ignoring formats that are have the smaller bases. Timeless is a great example where it's not a huge number of people, but the people who are into Timeless are like really, really into Timeless. They are
It's a
really
sweet format,
dedicated
yeah.
players. We are within the level of specificity that I'm allowed to have. There's stuff that will come for Timeless, and it'll be exciting, and that's
Yes.
about like as clear as I can get.
Right.
But yeah, it definitely impacts when we're making calls about like, hey, we've got enough extra bandwidth. We're going to be looking at things that are going to impact Brawl and Historic first, because that's the biggest bang for the effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is that as we've added formats, we like to joke we've effectively added a format every year. That's not going to continue. The bar to add a new format now is pretty high because we have so many of them.
Yeah.
Right. Those, even in the chart that shows up in the article where there's the lower formats, those are healthy formats. We have a big enough population with those. Matchmaking is fine. Play rates are great. We're happy with what they're doing in their space.
Yeah.
But every format we add puts more pressure on those formats. We want to be really cautious on what we add and when we add it. So we're not actively working on any new formats to add into Arena.
All right. Cool. Well, let's get to questions. I'm going to go roughly in order. If I skip over your question, it's either because it's off topic, we're talking Arena here today, or I know that maybe they can't answer it, or there's a similar question, or I just missed it. That can happen too. So we're going to start here. Has there been any development on a Sandbox feature? I wonder if this could be a vehicle for people to test cards during the new preset patch release schedule.
Sandbox feature. Well, I'm assuming that's practice with cards
That you don't own, I would
not
assume,
currently
is what
in
they-
collection.
yeah.
I think of all the things that we talked about 3 years ago that we've not made as much progress on as I would like,
Yeah.
that's one of them.
Okay.
It came up then. It comes up pretty regularly on what would this look like, how do we do this, and have that feature to allow people to play with things to see if they like them.
Yeah.
Right? Spending wild cards is a real thing, and once you spend them, you're committed. And so, allowing players to play in a spot that lets them feel like, oh, I get it, I know what this deck is doing, it matches what I want to do, I will craft it now, or no, that didn't do what I wanted it to do.
Yeah.
The caution we have there is what does that look like, and how do we fit it into the ecosystem?
Yep.
So we haven't solved that piece yet, but it is certainly on our radar as a thing that we would like to tackle. I think one of the places that we need to see where the overlap is in the new social and what we're allowing friend groups to do.
Okay.
There may be something there that is like, oh, this is the piece that we were missing that lets us unlock this.
Okay.
That's not a guarantee because we're still in the early exploration on exactly what that looks like and what the prototyping is and where we want to lean first. But those are the kinds of places where I could see something.
Okay. Similar vein, are there any updates on 4-player Commander/Brawl for Arena?
Working on it. It's a really, really big change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can say, there's active work being done on it. It is early enough that, what does the battlefield look like is an open question.
Yeah.
And so open that we're not even talking about it, right? We're just trying
Except
to
for
get,
right now.
we're trying to get pieces to work.
Yeah.
But what does that battlefield actually look like? How are we splitting it up? How are we accounting for 4 players? We haven't even scratched the surface there.
Yeah.
We know it's a line. Solve this.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we're not doing any
We
work
are in early experiments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how clearly we talked about this in the November video, but this will be a long process to get us to, before we actually have 4 players sitting at a table battling, it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
Social is part of that. We have one channel of working on social because social is a key component of multiplayer. That Rule 0 experience needs to be up and running and tested and vetted and iterated on before we're going to throw players into that 4-player mode. But yeah, we're working on behind the scenes, making sure the cards work, and that there's a lot of talked about decisions that have been made a long time ago. One of them was that Arena was a 2-player game, and that all has to be found, understood, and planned for as part of the move forward. So,
But real progress is happening.
Yeah.
But it might be slower than people are hoping. It's happening. We're working on it.
Yeah.
It will take a long time.
I think it's just important to know every time we give a status update on something like social, it is actually progress towards multiplayer.
Yeah.
We'll stick with new features. Tournament mode on Arena, is it ever coming?
What do we mean by tournament mode?
I
Be
do
my
not
question.
know.
We have a lot of tournaments. I would say Arena is tournament mode for a lot of folks. If we're talking about events that get to a single winner, I don't have anything to say there specifically. It's been a thing that we've talked about. I think we've done a lot to solve some of the general case in a lot of other ways. But for that, here's 64 players get down to 1 winner. We don't have any current plans for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when we talk about what the future might hold, I think there is a place for it. We just haven't figured out exactly what that looks like yet.
Well, and we are, a smaller group of people organizing play together sounds a lot like one of the features we've talked about today.
Yes.
What that specifically will look like, as we've said, it's not defined yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Historic's one of the formats I don't play, so I'm just going to read this question. I don't
Okay.
know if it's true or not, but I will read it. Do you think Historic will become a real format again? Right now, it's just turn 2 to 3 combo.
The last numbers I looked at in Historic had more than 20 competitive decks, like things that were meaningfully big in the meta, which to my knowledge is the biggest in Magic.
Yeah.
I think one of the things, so I can't speak to any individual player's experience on what they get paired against and how that happens, where it may feel samey.
Yep.
But both Historic and Alchemy are built with, hey, let's support as many decks as possible, and when that compresses or when a deck or deck type gets out of hand, we generally make changes. So, Ian has looked at it the Historic metadata more recently than I, and there's a bunch of decks. We know that historically Alchemy has had, when we talk about top decks in the meta where more established formats that aren't digitally balanced might be, there's 2 or 3 that take up the top 30 or 40%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like our outliers are like 5% of the meta.
Yeah.
Like we did a version of this a year or 2 ago where we looked at, right, how many decks are in that top half of the field. It's always double digits for us.
Yeah.
So it is more broad than it might feel sometimes on small sample sizes.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do go up against the same deck over and over again.
Yeah.
That's real life. It happens. Even if it is a diverse meta, even if a lot of stuff is being played, and it's disappointing. It's a fast format for sure. Like I don't see it getting way, way slower.
Yeah. I mean, formats tend to speed up the more cards you add to them.
Yeah.
I play Timeless. I don't play Historic. Timeless is probably a similar, like, it can be a turn 3 format, but I've played a lot of Elementals that's not. You have to be able to do a lot of things in those first couple turns. But
I feel like sometimes people, you always know when your opponent got the opening hand that wins the game on turn 2 or 3. All the games where they didn't get that hand,
you don't necessarily
see it.
Yep. All right. Okay, so I've gotten a number of questions about what about this format, what about this format, what about this format. You spoke earlier about there's got to be a high bar. I'm just going to name a few format things people have thrown out. You tell me top line thoughts on them. Modern.
We've talked about this before. It's not currently on our roadmap.
Okay.
There's a bunch of reasons. There's still a lot of cards and whatnot in that format. We think we have a lot of formats. Like, what is it replacing? We know that there's demand for it. It's a very popular format.
Yep.
But there's also a lot of work to get us where we need to be.
Brawl and/or Historic without Alchemy cards.
So, Brawl is a digital format. Digital formats have Alchemy cards. Yeah.
Okay.
Same as Historic.
Yep.
All right. Not on the roadmap. Okay. Pauper.
Pauper is a regular thing. That's one of those that has a bar that we would want to cross, right? It would always be Arena Pauper for other reasons, right? We're never just building what Pauper is in the tabletop or Magic Online community. So I think it's a good change of pace. I wouldn't say never, but it's not currently on our roadmap.
Okay.
I'll say when we run Pauper events, they do really, really well up front, and people have a bunch of fun, and then they drop off really sharply.
Yeah.
As people go, okay, cool. I played some games that felt very different, and I'm ready to go back and cast rares again.
Yep. All right. Let's see. Chat jumped. All right. I remember the question, though, at least. Are there any plans to add, you talked about anthologies, but the question is, are there any plans to add even, like, smaller bundles, like, here's the forces from an old set, or here's a cycle from an old set? Any thoughts on any smaller bundles than anthologies?
So we have certainly talked about different structures of delivering cards, including, I'm sure that has come up in chats before on, this makes a lot of sense, would we do it this way?
Yeah.
I mean, I believe we did a version with the fetch lands.
Fetches, yeah.
As an experiment. I think that went pretty well.
Okay.
The right opportunity is up there. We've talked about, we talked about selling decks. We've also talked about selling deck seeds, which are in a similar space. What is a bunch of related stuff that is, maybe not a full deck, but a deck starter.
Okay.
Right, that's in a similar space. That wouldn't be a full anthology. So this is another one where I don't have a timeline, but I would be surprised if it doesn't show up at some point in another format.
Okay. I've seen this question phrased a number of different ways, but the basic gist of it is, so you've talked about the social features and letting people play with their friends. Any plans for any kind of limited support, like draft with your friends sort of deal? Whether it's Phantom or a real draft or anything like that.
You want the short answer? The short answer is yes, we're talking about it and what it looks like because it is part of social.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly what it looks like yet and how that's going to present to players over time. We're not that far yet. We're still doing prototyping and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And that. But yeah, it is definitely on the table.
Okay.
And once that exists, there's a lot of interesting things we could do in that space.
All right. This next question is two questions.
Uh-oh.
Well, one's a question, one's a request. So the question is, any chance of allowing wild cards to be downgraded to a lower rarity? And then also, please add Torture Existence to the next anthology. So I'll just tuck that one in your brain.
I'll keep it in mind.
File it away. I don't even remember which card that is, but
Tortured Existence, it's the enchantment that lets you pay a black, discard a creature card to get a creature card back from the graveyard.
Okay. So downgrading wild cards. We don't have any plans for it. It's a little bit in the destructive space that we tend to stay away from.
Yeah.
I would say, I believe the real question here is the only downgrade that makes any sense is turn my mythics into rares.
Yeah.
Right, because we generally supply enough commons and uncommon wild cards throughout the system.
Yeah.
That those don't tend to be terribly relevant. So,
Okay.
it's currently not on the roadmap. I could see it's more valuable for different formats. Obviously, the bigger the format, maybe the less of any given mythic you'll need.
Yeah.
And particularly rares, lands tend to not ever be mythic, so they tend to be a pain point.
Okay.
So I believe we've talked about it, but it hasn't been we should do this yet.
Okay. You may not be able to answer this question. If not, you can just say so, but I'll ask it anyway. Will Universes Beyond sets have alchemy sets?
I don't know that we're ready to answer that question yet.
Okay.
We've talked about it, but in general, I think we'll have when we have some additional announcements for Universes Beyond coming up, and I think we'll save some of that for there.
Okay.
Because I don't know the timing of all of the announcements, and I don't want to say something I shouldn't.
That's smart. Thank you. Director of Communications, I appreciate that.
Yes. You've trained me well.
All right. Let's see. Are there any plans for changes to best of 3 drafts? A lot of people enjoy best of 3 more than best of 1, but the reward structure is significantly worse.
We have not talked about that, so I would have to go back and get some more information on what people believe is worse.
Okay.
There are different structures for different reasons, right? They're match made a little bit differently and whatnot, so best of 3 isn't ranked. Right?
Yep.
So, because that one's, when we talk about tournament structure, that's more of a tournament field, not quite fully, but so we'd have to go back and look.
Okay.
But I don't have any plans for that right now.
Okay. What is the goal for the direction of the Timeless format? Is it intended to be headed towards Legacy, or is it just all the cards that incidentally make their way onto Arena that are too powerful for other formats?
I mean, it's very similar to Legacy in that we don't tend to print things thinking this will be for Legacy. It's the format where everything goes.
Yeah.
And we want to watch it and maintain it, and if a thing gets genuinely toxic, we've got the ability to restrict. But we are part of the nature of formats that are eternal in that way. is that they are very organic in terms of how they grow.
Yeah.
They get things over time, and they grow that way with a lot less. If you are looking for a curated format that we put a lot of thought into and add cards to deliberately to keep things balanced, we're doing that in Historic. We're doing that in Alchemy. Timeless is much more that, like, it is what shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's two pieces there. The legacy-like is a better, it's not going to be legacy. We're not shooting for legacy.
No.
Yeah.
We have no interest in trying to make it legacy. Legacy-like, though, the Arena's legacy format, where significantly more powerful things happen in that format than anywhere else, is exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
We don't want it to get wildly out of control. We don't want it to be imbalanced, but we're also not actively balancing it.
Okay.
Right? We will course correct as something becomes too dominant or too powerful, but that format has a longer leash than anything else we run.
Yeah.
And that is very intentional. It's going to have to be a very, very demonstrated, though this is a problem.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of tools in the format to help solve problems, and when there's not, we'll look at that and we know, we can, based on what's coming down the pipeline, we can course correct. It's why when I talked about anthologies, whether it's for Timeless or Brawl or mix of things, I'd be surprised if we didn't get one, but we also need time to see what other releases bring to the format.
All right. Okay, I'm just going to read this one directly. Are there still plans for sharing your collection shared decks with friends during direct challenge matches? It dropped off the roadmap quietly a while ago. It would be great to introduce friends to the platform through direct play with them.
So you're talking about another feature that was really good in the vision for what we have for social and building connections with players. Can I guarantee it's coming soon? No, but that's the type of feature that makes a ton of sense in that world when we have a better social grouping.
Okay. Will we get a Timeless event? It's the only format that doesn't have it.
As far as just a regular constructed event?
Yeah, I guess so.
We're talking about where Timeless fits in the ecosystem. We can certainly talk about what that would look like for the size of the player base. But yes, we certainly, again, nothing specific, but we have talked about it at a high level for what is a good premiere moment for the format.
Okay.
And it's in consideration as one of those, here's a big tentpole cool thing that is Timeless.
Okay. I've seen variations on this next question, so I'll paraphrase. Is there any interest, work, anything on the roadmap for more future platforms for Arena?
More future platforms for Arena. We have talked over time about different platforms. We're on many, so Epic, Steam, native download, iOS, Android. Yep. So I think that's question around consoles primarily. And right now we don't have any plans for Arena specifically on consoles. There's a lot to consider in that world and what it looks like and which platforms we would do and the work that we would have to do to support those things. And right now, that's not currently on our roadmap for Arena.
All right.
I do think that there is a world where, if I had my way and could wave a wand, that Magic should exist on a console. I think that is clear, but there's no
The things
plans.
we would do if we had Magic Wand.
I know, right?
Yeah. Canadian Highlander on Arena. It's my one.
Is that yours?
Wave a magic wand. Yep.
Anonymous question in the chat. When are you bringing Canadian Highlander?
All right. When will Explorer? This is an easy one. When will Explorer be renamed Pioneer? It is basically already the same.
As soon as we identify all the things that we need to change and it fits into our schedule, it will be this year. Which set? I don't know. But it will definitely change before the end of the year. It might change in August, September timeline is probably the most likely. But we agree. The part of the Arena Championship 8 that we ran was in Explore, and it validated some of what we thought, or like, did we capture the decks? Are we at competitive parity? And for all intents and purposes, we're there. So now it's just a name change. There's additional things to change that might not be obvious. For instance, we launched achievements when we launched it before a name change. Everything related to Explore and achievements now needs to be addressed. So there's a plan for that that has to be built. But I believe we have the plan, but the work needs to be done to support that stuff along with all of the other references to Explore.
All right. When will we get deck builder improvements and increase to emote limits?
So I don't know if you have insight on any specific deck builder improvements. We do a little over time as we need to account for things.
You'll get deck builder improvements for. Can I talk about that? Nope, never mind.
You'll get deck builder improvements for something that's coming up.
Yep, there's things.
I am probably, on the team, I am probably the harshest deck builder critic.
Okay.
So I have a passion for it. Also, when we talk about what we're prioritizing and what we need to address in the timelines that we need to address things, I have a lot of things that I'm very passionate about, but we'll defer to some of the cooler heads on the team on what we need to focus on for any given moment.
Okay.
But I am with the person who asked the question. I did not secretly type it, but yes, I would love to make some adjustments to the deck builder. I think there's opportunities there. The big problem we have in this is there's the PC one and then there's the mobile one. How do those intersect? They are slightly different. They do require different work. We can't just change one. We can change one, but we have to account for it in the other one and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's not just a simple here's what we would like to do. And make it happen. It's what's the effort? What are we prioritizing?
Okay. What's your least favorite thing in the deck builder as it is?
I have a couple. I don't like either of the. I came from Mitgo. If you don't know, I was, worked on and managed Mitgo for over 10 years.
Yeah.
I really like their deck builder. It shows me a lot. I can make it show me as a power user. I can make it show me a ton of information and get cards into my deck in a way that makes a ton of sense to me in that world. I don't think we show enough cards in the deck builder for the power users. I think it's good for onboarding newer people, and it's like works there. And then there's a couple search things that just bug me that are just fixes that we need to get in. Like if I have a search term and expand my deck and then shrink my deck, and it sometimes loses the search term. And it makes me sad.
All right.
My personal one in there is I think that cards I don't own should be a toggle at the top level. I don't want to have to open a window for that.
I think that one I have seen recently as a ticket to work on as far as this really should be at the top level. So that might come sooner than many. Like a major deck overall is a ways away. Continued quality of life improvements we're going to work on.
Okay.
The emotes one, by the way,
I'm
100% with them. I want that. I want to be able to pick more emotes, and I want to be able to pick from more of them quickly. It's not mine to fix, and I'll fully understand that the people whose job it is to fix have lots going on, like they have to build the whole social thing that we're talking about, but I'm with you.
We have seen versions of more and better emote and phrase management and activation in the client. Cool. We do a thing called Experimental Frenzy. We run several of them each year, which is 3 days where the team gets to do their passion projects. Whatever they want to do, they can build a small internal team or go off on their own and do stuff. And they're one of the teams knows I want this. So their experimental frenzy was in the space of not only doing management, but automatic triggering of emotes and phrases, which is something I'm super excited about. And maybe we'll get it at some point. Cool. It's one of those things that I love and want to deliver, but also prioritizing the entirety of the game is first.
All right. Well, we are just about out of time, so I am going to call it there. Thank you, everyone. There were still a bunch of great questions in chat. I'm sorry we didn't get to them. Certainly, you can find Arena on various social media platforms and on the official Magic Discord. Head to any of those, and some folks may be able to answer your questions, may not. We'll see. Depends on your question. But I appreciate you sharing all those questions.
I
yes.
have one thing before
we go.
So there is a dastardly companion who popped up for April Fool's last week.
Yeah.
And because some people might not know that he was there and missed the chance, and I knew I was going to be here, and I love him, he's available for a day.
Okay.
So if you missed out on Dastardly Dwayne, the evil pet rock companion,
Yep.
he's available until tomorrow.
Till tomorrow. Okay.
Yep, you have roughly 20 hours
Okay.
to go grab them from the store.
All right. Good tip. Cool. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Next week, we will be back with a pretty relaxed stream. But the week after that is the one you want to circle on your calendar. April 22nd, Gavin Verhey is going to be back here. We are going to be talking Commander. We're going to be talking brackets. We're going to be talking unbans. You are not going to want to miss that show. Circle it on your calendar. Set an alarm. We're going to be back same time as usual. Until then, we'll see you next week.